APSC. Thank you very much for joining us for the APSC webinar for Medtech innovation today. Through this webinar, we would like to think about how we can develop innovative medical devices in Asian countries. First of all, why do we need to develop medical devices from APSC? Please take a look at this slide. First, as you know, Asia has 7 of the top 10 most populous countries in the world, and it accounts for more than 60% of the world's population. The demand for healthcare services and medical equipment in Asia is also growing remarkably, increasing at a rate of 7% per year. In the field of cardiology, the development of medical equipment is rapidly increasing. However, the medical equipment used in APSC countries continues to be dependent on the United States and Europe. APSC countries are trying to develop medical devices from their own countries by supporting major manufacturers and focusing on startups, but it is not easy. One of the major challenges is the diversity of APSC. The culture, population, economic environment, and other factors vary among APSC countries. And we do not know what kind of medical background they have. Moreover, the different regulations for medical devices in each country are also a major issue. This webinar consists of 3 parts for the development of innovative medical devices from Asia. First, Professor Sandeep, a leading medical device developer in India, will share use cases of medical device development in Asia. Second, we would like to have APSC member countries from Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, Japan, and Indonesia share their challenges and initiatives in the cardiovascular field and consider what we can do in cooperation with each country. Finally, Dr. Ho will provide us with information on Japanese regulation, which is similar to those in Europe and the United States regarding important issue for medical device development. We hope that this webinar will provide clues for the development of innovative medical devices in APSC region. So please watch this webinar through to the end. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Komuro-sensei. My name is Fumiaki Ikeno. I'm a faculty of Stanford Biodesign program. So from now, I would like to moderate the session. The first keynote lecture will be presented by Professor Sandeep Singh from the Department of Cardiology, Cardiothoracic Science Center, AIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So Sandeep is also my very close friend. He visited Stanford and ran biodesign program, preclinical study. So, and he's now leader of the medical device development in India. So Professor Komuro mentioned, so Asian country, most of the Asian countries, we depend on the United States, made in USA medical devices. But currently, like about 50% of all population in the world is Asian. So so the reason why I think we have to think about now to develop the new devices, new method that fit to the Asian people from Asian country. So I think Sandeep is one of the leader of the Asian medical device field. So please, Sandeep, we would like to learn from you.
Thank you, Fumi. Can I share my screen?
Sure.
Good morning and greetings from New Delhi. At the outset, I would like to thank Professor Fumi, my dear friend, Dr. Kumoro, and the organizers of the Japanese Circulation Society for inviting me and to deliver the keynote address under the aegis of APSC. The topic of the webinar is on medtech innovation, specifically focusing in the Asian countries. So I'll be speaking on the outcomes and the learnings from an Indian medtech innovation biodesign initiative, which is called as a School of International Biodesign. Now, this biodesign is popularly known in India as the SIB program and is fully supported by the Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. So I'll be delivering my talk under two headings. First, I'll be speaking about the processes and outcomes of this biodesign initiative. And secondly, what are the learnings from these biodesign initiatives and how these learnings, the challenges are important for making a robust medtech ecosystem from an innovation point of view. I have nothing to disclose for the presentation, the content of this presentation. If you see that we launched this program in the year 2007, and at that particular point, this was perhaps the first program on medtech innovation based on the biodesign principles to be launched in the Asia. In fact, till date, we are the longest running medtech innovation program in the Asian continent. Prior to 2007, only 12 to 15 such programs were running across the world. This program was popularly known as the Stanford India Biodesign Program, and in the year 2015, we transitioned into the School of International Biodesign, which is nothing but a continuation of the Stanford India Biodesign Program. Instead of sending our fellows to Stanford to learn the process of medtech innovation, because the Stanford was at that time moving ahead with the program of its own biodesign program. But in the year 2015, we became self-sufficient in terms of this medtech innovation training program. Not only we became self-sufficient, we also started collaborating with many universities across the world and started recruiting international fellows for this program. So this program basically is a unique program which was initiated in India, a collaboration, not from academic only point of view, but purely from a translational point of view between two leading universities, along with many international partners. The medical university is the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, where actually I am a professor of cardiology. It is a leading medical university. And in collaboration with a technical and a leading engineering institute called as the Indian Institute of Technology, which is also based very near to the medical university. The Biotech Consortium India Limited basically deals with the techno-legal aspects and the IP management of this program. What was the goal of this program? It was basically to train the next generation of medtech innovators, to identify unmet healthcare needs and develop solutions, specifically frugal solutions in the country, basically to help develop low-cost medical devices for the use of a common man, and in a way to help ignite the Indian medtech industry, which we felt that at that time was far below its potential if we compared it with our drug industry or a vaccine industry. So that was the basic motive of the launch of this program in the 2007, and we are continuously running this program since then. I have used the word biodesign. I mean, one must be very clear that what are the pillars of a biodesign-based medtech innovation. And we are strictly following this biodesign-based medtech innovation pillars. First, the process has to be a clinical need driven. And secondly, the whatever innovation is done, it is done on the basis of a team formation. It is not the individual person who will take this product forward, but it is a team which will take this particular innovation forward. So when I say team, it means that there is a team of various aspects of engineers which are complementary to each other. The team consists of a physician, a designer. Generally, we keep a team of 3 to 4 fellows. They are basically posted into the hospital environment in a pre-decided clinical area for their clinical immersion. They are posted roughly for 1 to 2 months, where they become a member of the medical fraternity over there in that particular environment. They always work in a team whenever they are visiting the hospital environment, or they are innovating in the SIP center. So what do? They basically identify lots and lots of clinical needs. They filter it to a few needs which they would like to work forward. They develop lots of concepts in the initial phase, and finally they choose the final concept. This filtration process which we use is basically on the basis of what is the impact of the problem, what is the concept, what is the basically the market size of the problem, how easy is the concept which can be manufactured, and after all, also most importantly, what is the passion of the team to take this product forward. This fellowship is typically for the 2 years. The first year basically is more on the process of clinical immersion, need finding, and brainstorming and the early prototype development. The second year focuses more on their due diligence and the refinement process for their prototypes, the business planning for their funding, so that they can smoothly transition into a startup mode starting from the year 3. So the fellowship is basically for the 2 years, but the incorporation generally we prefer to start in the year 3. Even during the year 3, year 4, and subsequently, they are continuously mentored by the stakeholders of this program, along with the faculty members of the discipline in which they have done their clinical immersion. The first 2 years of the program are based at the SIB Center, which is situated at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And later on, the fellows, once they form their startup, they are free to visit the medical institute as well as the engineering institute for any inputs if they require. What have we achieved so far? It's basically it is not a classroom type of a training for medtech innovation. It is basically a few select individuals we choose on the basis of a pan-India competition, where we train them by hand-holding them so that they can take these products forward for a commercialization. So we have trained up to 140 to 150 innovators. Few of them were also international fellows. We have created up to 48 to 50 products. 14 startups have been initiated under the aegis of this program. 33 patents have been granted so far, predominantly are international patents. 7 products are in the commercialized phase, and out of these, 2 products have received a US FDA approval also. So these are the 14 medtech startups which were initiated or we generated from our School of International Biodesign. You can see right at the 0 o'clock, the first medtech startup was started in the year 2012. And if you see that every year there is a medtech, there's a startup which is getting, including in the last 2 years when there was a COVID pandemic. So up to 14 medtech startups have been initiated. And these medtech startups were based on the clinical needs which the fellows themselves identified along with the faculty members, who actually are the co-inventors. The faculty members are also the co-inventors of the technologies during their process of the SIB training. The time will not permit me to go individually into the details of each of these projects, but important point I would like to say is the type of innovation which we have done. In the initial phase, when the medtech innovation ecosystem is developing, we focus more on frugal, simpler type A and type B devices, which I will be discussing more when I come to the second part of my lecture. As I mentioned that 7 of our technologies are in a commercialized phase. These technologies have created the impact not only in our own country, but also in globally in various other geographies of the world, including the developed countries. One important point which I would like to highlight is that our program is a medtech innovation training program. And we have seen that many of the fellows have also initiated few startups purely based on the training process which we have given them, the biodesign training process which we have given them over the 2 years. And these processes, these startups have actually are on the healthcare allied businesses, not on the clinical need in which they were working, but only on the some allied areas which were related to the healthcare and purely based on the training which they received from our center during the first 2 years. Now, these were the outcomes. So there were a few challenges, there were a few learnings when we launched this program in the 2007 and continuing till date. And I would like to highlight 3 or 4 such learnings because these are very important from a initiation of a medtech innovation program. In fact, these are very important and they become pillars for telling us what are the tenets for inclusive and a sustainable medtech innovation ecosystem, especially in a developing ecosystem. Let me take you to this very important slide, actually. If you see that in any medtech innovation program, there are 4 pillars. First is the innovator. And if you see that our program, the SIB program, basically focus on development of entrepreneurs and the small startups. But per se, they are not sufficient unless they are totally backed up by the remaining 3 pillars. They have to be backed up by the fuelers, which actually are very important for the sustainability of the innovators and the products. It has to be further supported by a very good regulatory system because the product will reach market only if there is a good regulation. And in fact, these regulators are very important for the sustainability of the product which is developed out of the program. And obviously, the consumers always remain as the gatekeeper of any medtech innovation. The products which are totally clinical need-based, they find entry into the market at a faster pace as compared to the products which are only technology based. So that's why we always focus in a biodesign process, clinical need based medtech innovation. Now, let me discuss few of the learnings, few of the challenges, and how they are important for a medtech ecosystem, innovation ecosystem. First question which can be asked is that when we recruit these fellows, what are the type of medtech innovation we are expecting from these fellows, especially if you're launching a process in a ecosystem which is still developing? I would say that it is the disruptive or the incremental innovation which becomes very important. When I say disruptive innovation, it means that this is a high impact but a low investment required type of innovation, or there could be incremental innovation in which the frills of a hi-fi technology is taken off and a simpler device is made. So these two areas of innovation are very important if a medtech ecosystem is being evolved as compared to a radical or a bold innovation which develops a very superior technology, because here not only the investment required will be very high, but also the time lag will be very high as far as the development and the commercialization of this technology is concerned. So the first learning we had was for a medtech ecosystem, especially when you are promoting entrepreneurship and a small startup, it is the disruptive innovation and the incremental innovation which is best suited, because these are less risky, they have a faster market entry, they have a high impact, and funding which is required for these technologies are low as compared to a radical and the bold innovation. Second is the requirement of the funding. No, they are the backbone as far as the technology development is concerned. They are the fuelers basically. If you see in the stages of the product development, there are 3 stages which are very important. First is the stage of a research, which is comparatively easier for any developing ecosystem to bridge this particular gap and develop a prototype. The second is the engineering, in which you require more refined product development. Third, which I always feel is the toughest to navigate, is the marketing. At that time, basically, you require your commercialization strategies which have to be impacted. And at every level, you see that the fuelers, they play a very important role. In the initial phase, it is the government funding, but in the later phase, it is the private investors and the venture capitalists which play a very dominant role for the product development. Now, I'll take back to you my program, that is a School of International Biodesign. And if you say that in the earlier years, what we have significant fundings from many government sources. If you see that almost every project was being backed up by a good government funding. But what I would like you to pay attention is the these two small scales or circles, the VC funding and the angel investors, if you see from a distance, you will find that the proportion of VC funding and the angel investors in the initial part of program was much less as compared to government funding. Now, how does this impact? If you see in a developing medtech innovation ecosystem, the venture firms, capitals, and angels, they generally come at a slightly later stage. That's why there is a very significant gap in ultimately the commercialization of the product. And if you compare it to a well-developed medtech ecosystem, say the Silicon Valley or other areas in the European or in the American context, these investors, they rope in right at the beginning of the product development. That's why the phases of development of, especially during the commercialization part of the product, it takes a lesser time to go into the market. So that's why I always feel that the involvement of private investors, the venture firms, is a very important for early commercialization strategy of any innovation process. That takes me to the third important learning and the challenge which we had, that is the industry participation. No medtech innovation can be done of your own. It requires intense collaboration. When I say collaboration, and especially in a medtech innovation ecosystem which pertains to government and academia, now these are the three pillars, or there is a triple helix of collaboration: the government, the industry, and the academia. Each one plays a very important role as far as medtech innovation ecosystem is concerned, though the proportion in which each helix, each circle plays its part may differ from one economy to the other, one system to the another, but one of these three play a very important role for the product development. In the initial phase of when there is no collaboration, they all are doing their own work. There's hardly any interaction between government, academia, government industry, or academia industry. Generally, this is not conducive for a medtech innovation. They work in their own silos, but does not lead on to any translational or any commercial product. The beginning of the collaboration generally, which happened in our program also, was between the government and academia, in which the government provided strategic funding and for the strategic demands, and the new product and ideas were innovated by the academia. But in the initial phase, there was hardly any interaction between the government and industry, and academia and industry. But for a robust and for a sustainable medtech ecosystem, for the development of innovative products, these three areas, these three circles have to come very close to each other. In fact, each of these have to work in a cross-cutting boundaries. The government has to provide a conducive environment for the product development. The academia has to do not only research in, say, academic research or a theoretical research, but has to go into the translational products. And industry has to develop more of a co-creation rather than a company-specific product development. If all these three will work together, then only the sweet spot of a product development in a medtech ecosystem will be there, and that will lead on to a robust and a sustainable ecosystem development. If you see here, those developing ecosystem in which the involvement of industry is less, their positive cash flows and the growth and the maturity occur at a later stage, as compared to in which there is an industry involvement at an early stage. There is the growth and the maturity of the product development occurs at a faster pace. When I say that industry involvement, there can be how industry can get involved in a medtech innovation ecosystem. Earlier phase, we had an industry mentored philosophy, but now more or less we are focusing on an industry assisted type of a product development, where industry also has a stakes in the product development. So what I feel is that in a program like ours, the industry should also have some stakes into the product development. That will lead on to a more beneficial, it will be more beneficial for the success of a whole medtech innovation ecosystem. Now, this leads on to my last area of challenge, or maybe a learning from our program, is the R&D strategy and the infrastructure which is provided. If you see that for any product development, these are the phases purely from a technical point of view, starting from a prototype or a beta prototype, which goes on to a benchtop testing. It looks very simple, and it looks as if there is a straight line of a product development. But actually, it can never be a straight line. If you see that at every level, you have to go back. You may take one step forward. You may have to go two steps backward. So it is in fact in the form of a multiple circles which are formed during a product development. And at each stage, you will require a good R&D strategy and the infrastructure. What we felt that in a developing ecosystem, especially in the earlier part of our project of School of International Biodesign, we face challenges, in fact, in the large animal testing and in the initial conduct of the clinical trials. Any robust medtech innovation ecosystem must address to these areas, especially if you are thinking of going ahead with slightly complex technologies, implantables, development of certain technologies which require more manpower, more robust infrastructure. These need to be developed in a medtech ecosystem. And we are very thankful to our government. Not only they initiated more biodesign programs in the country, they have significant learnings from these biodesign initiatives. They developed a lot of business incubators, biotech parks, especially economic zones. They also developed a lot of manufacturing zones for the innovative product development. They eased out the process of indigenous manufacturing. They eased out the process of public procurement for the indigenous products. In fact, all these tenets are very important for a sustainable medtech innovation ecosystem. And all these were based on the learnings from our program, from the other medtech program in our country, and as well as many medtech programs across the world. So these are my key messages during for this webinar regarding the medtech ecosystem innovation, based on a biodesign philosophy. Thank you for your kind attention, and I'm open for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Sandeep. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. I think I personally, I have several questions for you. So, of course, the unique feature of India medtech development is focusing to frugal innovation. So, of course, you have tons of people in India, but not everybody can access to the high-end, very expensive made in USA type of medical devices. So the reason why the unmet needs in India is very important for the other rest of the world. So most of the country cannot access. But on the other hand, even the advanced country like the US, Japan, Europe, their expenditure of healthcare is increasing dramatically. So, and especially US, it's crazy, very expensive. So the reason why people people started to think about, so how to do like a more value-based approach. At that time, frugal innovation is, I think, will be the key word, key topic for all over the world. So what do you think about that things? Not only India, but also all over the world. So I think frugal technology will be the key.
Yes, Fumi, I mean, I do agree with you. And in fact, in the coming years, it is the frugal innovation, because the cost of healthcare has become so high that even the developed economies are reverting back to a simpler technologies, frugal innovation. Basically, it gives them a cost cutting, and the impact of these devices becomes very high. So in fact, we have realized that when our devices were being innovated in India, and it's easier for us to go globally if the devices are very simply, because the acceptance rate have suddenly become very high for a simple, low-cost, frugal technology. When I say frugal or low cost, I do not mean it's a cheap technology. Still, it remains a state-of-the-art technology, but not many frills, unnecessary frills which are attached to that particular technology. So that's why I feel that the coming years will focus more on these type of technologies. Not only it helps our young entrepreneurs to grow at a faster pace, but also it gives the whole healthcare environment a very robust economy for further sustainment. So that's my key point. So it is not important only for the developing economies, but I think in the coming years, even the developed economies will focus more on frugal and low-cost technologies.
Oh, thank you very much. I think, Sandeep, you are a leader of Indian medtech ecosystem. So I hope you can change the world in near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have I think a 5 minutes break, and we're gonna restart 5 minutes later from now. So we're gonna have some kind of 6 different countries presentation 5 minutes later. So let's break. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to have a short talk from each countries and each key opinion leaders. The first country is from Singapore. So my friend, Dr. Philip Wong, he's also a cardiologist, and he's now working at Raffles Heart Center, Raffles Hospital, Singapore. So Philip, please go ahead to start.
Thank you for me. Thank you to the APSC as well as the Japan Society of Cardiology for inviting me to speak on this topic. I am Philip Wong. I am an interventional cardiologist now working at the Raffles Heart Center, which is a private hospital in Singapore. So these are my conflict of interest. I'm currently the founder and CEO of Web Biotech Singapore, which is a company that produces a mobile cardiac telemetry platform called the Spider ECG. I'm also the ex-founder and CEO of InnoHeart, private limited based in Singapore, which is a GLP certified preclinical organization. I have been the PI of more than 165 large animal studies, including 25 GLP studies. I'm also currently the recipient of a SERP industry grant funding for ambulatory chest pain sensor. I have no other conflict of interest to declare. Some demographics about Singapore. Singapore has a population of 5.64 million on the island. It's very small. The average age of the population is 42.2 years. The growth rate is about 3.5% and is driven mainly by foreign non-residential population. The life expectancy for Singapore in 2020 is 83.93 years. 0.16 increase from 2021. This matches quite closely to Japan, which has a life expectancy of about 84.6 years. Singapore, like everywhere else, is an aging population. The percentage of seniors will hit 27% in 2030, while the percentage of juniors will decrease by 10%, roughly what Japan is today in this year. I couldn't find the market size for medical devices in Singapore, so I looked up Dr. Google. This is, I think, a very rough estimate. It's approximately, and you see the growth from 1.5 US billion to 3.45 billion in 2022 during the COVID years. I'm not sure how accurate is this, but this is basically what I found on the internet on the rough market size of medical devices in Singapore. Now, in terms of invasive cardiac procedures, I've taken this data from my previous hospital, which is the National Heart Center of Singapore. This is the largest cardiac center in Singapore and accounts for roughly 40% of the total cardiac invasive procedures in our island. So in 2018, there were roughly 6,000 invasive cardiac procedures. 41% of them were PCI, 9% were EP procedures, 8% were implantable EP devices like ICDs and PPMs. 2% were structural heart devices like TAVI and mitral clip. I think in this invasive cardiac procedures, probably the biggest growth rate will be that in EP procedures, as well as structural heart devices. PCI will remain, I think, roughly, the growth rate will be very stable and will actually, I think, plateau off after a couple of years. Now, lastly, something on the medical insurance in Singapore. Singapore has a very stable, I think, insurance, medical insurance that is provided by the Singapore government. It does this through the Central Provident Fund, or CPF for short. This is a mandatory savings that is funded by contributions from both employers and employees. The monthly contributions go into 3 accounts: ordinary account, which can be used to purchase housing, and is also used for retirement. a special account, which is for retirement, and a MediSave account, which is for all our healthcare needs. MediSave actually, it's very important. It enforces savings that are set aside for outpatient expenses as well as hospitalization fees. There are, of course, this is of course only applicable to what we call government hospitals or government restructured hospitals, and actually covers a lot of the basic needs for our population in Singapore. Now, there are also added plans that have come about through the years. There is also a MediShield Life Plan, which is funded by, the premiums are funded by the MediSave. And this is administered also by the government. And this is for selected hospital bills that are very costly, such as dialysis and chemotherapy. Now, they also actually work with private insurers. So there is a scheme where we can have additional add-ons. These are flexible schemes called the integrated shield plans that are, with private insurers. So these can be used to cover, for example, certain higher type wards. These are the class A or single bedders, for example, in a public hospital. These premiums can be paid partially from the CPF account and also from a private and also privately. You also contribute to these ISP or integrated shield plans. There's also quite a wide variety of private insurance that you can take up in Singapore, and generally the premiums are increasing as the healthcare costs increase in Singapore. Now, roughly, Singapore spends about 7% of its GDP on healthcare, which is considered quite low. But previously, 10 years ago, the health expenditure was only approximately 3.5% of the GDP on healthcare. So this is a very low. But we also recognize that in Singapore, this will increase through time as healthcare costs rises with time. I just want to spend the last few minutes talking about the ecosystem for startups in Singapore, and my slides are taken from SG Innovate. SG Innovate is a private organization that is wholly owned by the Singapore government and supports early stage emerging tech startups from Singapore for the world. The three main functions of SG Innovate are that of early stage or seed investments, talent networking, and community building. Of course, COVID has hit innovation and entrepreneurship quite severely. And of course, the number of tech startups has decreased over the last 3 years. But there are some sort of verticals that SG Innovate has identified that could be actually up and coming through the COVID pandemic. And perhaps I just spend a little bit of time focusing on this. One of them, of course, is the agri-food vertical. Now, these are the emerging tech verticals that SG Innovate has identified. You will see in the fourth column, healthcare is still one of the important verticals that are there. Obviously, through the pandemic, there were a lot of innovations that were used to control the COVID pandemic. But the other verticals include that, like advanced manufacturing, agri-food, as well as sustainability verticals. So these are the the tech startups that were incorporated in Singapore by sub-verticals. If you take, for example, health and biomedical sciences, these can be divided into medical devices, which still contribute about 30 to 40% of all the biomedical science innovation and startups in Singapore. The rest were in the diagnostic therapeutics, as well as platform tech, which are cloud-based or AI-based type of technology. Funding activities, of course, these dropped during the COVID pandemic, and these are some of the data on the ticket sizes that were funded for during COVID. I think these will again, hopefully over the next couple of years, start to pick up again in Singapore. So these are the funding activities by sub-verticals. I think the greatest growth are those in the agri-food areas, and of course in advanced manufacturing. I think advanced manufacturing is quite similar to a frugal innovation that was mentioned previously. So we are trying to streamline, of course, and bring down costs for manufacturing, I think, which is a very important part of, as well as part of important part of medical device development. This is my last slide. So these are some of the reasons why Singapore is, I think, quite a good hub for medical device development. It is very business friendly. The corporate tax rates are very low. And I think there's quite a lot of experience, though the community is very small on medical device development. There's also a lot of support from the government for medical device development in Singapore. Thank you very much for your attention. Happy to answer any questions from this talk.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you very much. Of course, after each presentation, we're going to have a panel discussion, but I would like to ask one question specific for the Singapore. So Singapore government, like ASTAR is like identical, like NIH or in US and AMED in Japan. So ASTAR tried to foster and the Medtech innovation in Singapore. The reason why Singapore Biodesign collaborating with Stanford and also Singapore National University, those programs started, and also starting up company is now becoming more and more. So, but the domestic market of the Singapore is compared with like a US market, the EU market, it's a relatively smaller for them. But how about the strategy of the, of course, starting up, but not only starting up, but also relatively large corporate Singapore medical device company like Genesis Medical and QT Vascular, or like a biosensors used to be. So is that the thinking about more export or more think about domestic market?
So, you know, for me, the domestic market is very small, almost nothing at all. So I think the focus for any startup or even a big established industry would be to use Singapore as a stepping stone for South Asia. So I think beyond the Singapore, besides India and China, which are very big domestic markets, we have other big populations like Vietnam, Indonesia, and so on. So these are countries that, of course, if you were an early startup or even if an established industry, that you want to use Singapore perhaps as your corporate headquarters, perhaps as an R&D, early R&D center to then move to these markets.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's, I also think about, so Singapore is like a center hub to access the Asian market. So that's the reason why people believe that's a very important country. Thank you. Okay, let's move to next talk. Next talk is from Japan. Dr. Hiroyuki Kiriyama, he's a Department of Cardiovascular Medicine, the University of Tokyo, under Professor Komuro's team. So he's also a faculty of Japan Biodesign Program. So please.
Hello. So I will introduce the Japan status of cardiovascular medical device. So my name is Hiroyuki Kiriyama from the University of Tokyo Hospital. So I have no COI to disclose in this session. So first, I would explain the epidemiology in Japan. So Japan has the 11th largest population in the world with about 125 million people. However, 0.5% of them is annually decreasing due to declining birth rate and aging population. The average age is about 48 years, which is much higher than in the world. So as you know, the aging is a huge problem in Japan. So this graph shows the elderly is increasing rapidly. 65 years old and over reaches 30% now, and 75 years and more is about 50%. So this graph shows that Japan is the world's highest elderly population. So regarding medical insurance system in Japan, it's mainly national health insurance system. Almost all citizens are covered by the national health insurance system, so government guarantee the healthcare cost individually. As this graph shows, the medical expenses and nursing care expenses put a burden in governmental finance. So this is the slide for a cardiovascular medical device in Japan. So there are zero DPC data, almost all data from Japanese data. And PCI was performed in 250 million cases, and elective cases is a measurement. The TAVI is increasing rapidly and reaches over 10 million cases. The pacemaker is performed stable, over 40 million cases. As you know, almost all of them are from Europe and US. The market size of Japan is $34 billion and is third rank in the world. The CAGR means market annual growth and is 4% increase per year. A couple of companies, including Olympus, Terumo, Canon, in Japanese car makers, ranked in top 25 medical device companies in the world. However, the market size in Japan is gradually shrinking. So why is the market in Japan shrinking? The Japanese companies share the market in diagnostic devices to some degree, but high-risk therapeutic device like PCI, TAVI, pacemaker is overwhelmed by foreign companies. So no new innovative treatment devices from Japan is one reason for shrinking the market in Japan. So in summary, in Japan, medical costs are rapidly increasing due to aging population. And national health insurance system also put burden on medical costs. So we should consider about not only in terms of efficacy of medical device, but also cost effectiveness. And lastly, imports of medical devices, especially in the cardiovascular treatment device. So we should need to develop innovative medical devices in Japan, which can export overseas market. So we should consider how we can make innovative medical device. So startups play an essential role. So innovative medical devices are created when startups tackles challenging medical devices that large companies cannot in early stage. And major companies merge and acquire those promising startups and accelerate the implementation. The one solution to make innovative medical device is biodesign. The Professor Sandeep told that, but the biodesign method was born in Stanford University 20 years ago. And this is very sophisticated approach and useful tool to invent innovative medical devices. So members of Stanford Biodesign invented many innovative devices, including rapid exchange balloon system, and IVAS from Professor Boryok, and Shockwave from Dr. Todd Brinton. And Josh McCall is the current director of Stanford Biodesign. So biodesign process composed of 3 I's: identify, invent, and implement. So in biodesign process, we identify unmet medical needs, invent concepts which meet the need, and implement the concept. The need is the most important part in innovative medical device. A tech push approach from engineers often doesn't work because there might be no need there. A needs-driven approach focusing on the needs of the medical field can lead to the practical medical device. So after identifying the unmet needs, we will proceed to the next step. Biodesign uses design thinking approach to generate lots of innovative ideas, and then consider business possibilities for devices that can reach patients. The former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited Stanford University, and Japan Biodesign program launched in 2015. So 8 years have passed, and over 10 startups were launched from Japan Biodesign program. So we hope them to reach patients in the near future. So I will give an example from Japan Biodesign program. Cardiac rehabilitation is important in preventing recurrence of cardiovascular disease. However, many elderly patients in Japan are unable to attend outpatient cardiac rehabilitation. The first fellow from Japan Biodesign program, Dr. Taniguchi, launched RemoHub. RemoHub provides remote cardiac rehabilitation using specific medical device. And his startup was finally acquired last year. So then global biodesign network is spreading. Singapore, India, Taiwan, Australia, and Japan cultivate each biodesign program to meet the original need in each country. So my last message is, let's identify cardiovascular needs in APAC and accelerate needs-driven medtech innovation from APSC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kiriyama. So before our panel discussion, so about 30 minutes later maybe, so I would like to ask you some specific question for Japan. So of course, Japan is the most advanced aging society. So now aging rate is about 29%, and it will be about 40% within maybe 20 or 30 years. So, but also absolute number of aging people. Number one is China. Number two is India. The third is United States. And the fourth is Japan. So it means in the world, more than 50% in the aging people are Asian. So that is why in terms of the aging disease or aging community or society, of course, Asia is very important. So in Japan Biodesign program, are you planning to focus more aging tech or aging disease treatment or diagnostic? So what's your plan for medical device innovation in Japan?
So thank you for your question. So I agree with your opinion. So we should focus on aging population. So in biodesign process, so the clinical immersion is very important. So many doctors and engineers dive into some specific area. So we should
maybe freeze. Okay, I think, hello?
For clinical immersion in aging population. So in Japan, so yeah, that's my comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's move to next talk. Next talk is from Taiwan. Dr. Wei-Ta Chen, Taipei Medical University Hospital. So Taipei Medical University Hospital also launched a biodesign program in Taiwan. So please.
Okay. Thanks for your invitation for my presentation. And actually, I think I did not focus. Wait a minute. Let me share my slide first. Okay. And, my presentation is not focused in my whole country's data, but I focus on a specific product and a specific situation. So I'm going to talk about hemodialysis AV fistula stenosis detector. And I think most of audience or speakers in this section is a cardiology or something, or working in the similar, the relative field. So I don't have to talk too much about what is the AV fistula and how can it be stenosis. But we can see this current situation that, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Okay. Okay. So for the AV fistula for the hemodialysis patients, that it takes about 40% patients will get a stenotic AV fistula in 1 year, and if you left it untreated, there will be about 20% will get thrombosis, and the 10% will be failed. The AV fistula will be just unable to be used anymore. So if we can find a patient with a stenotic AV fistula, it takes only about 30 minutes to fix it. And the patient can just walk in, walk out, and it actually will not interfere the patient's daily life. However, if the patient got a thrombotic AV fistula, the hemodialysis cannot be going on. So he had to do some relative emergent procedure to open the AV fistula. And sometimes they have to visit the ER, and sometimes they have to be hospitalized. And for the lucky ones, the thrombotic AV fistula will be opened by anyways, invasive procedure or open surgery. But some guys will not be so lucky that the SS, the AV fistula, the hemodialysis SS will be lost. And in this kind of patients, it may take about 1 week hospitalization. And it may need another 3 months for the catheter for the hemodialysis for about 3 months until the new AV fistula matured. So it's a quite problem that big problem that the longer the patient using the AV fistula, you will face more this kind of patients. So currently there is no very efficient way to detect the stenotic AV fistula at this stage. So this will be a problem that if we are always dealing with these kind of patients, it will cost a lot of money, and we will make the patient suffering. So let's take a look about the end-stage renal disease, the prevalence. In Taiwan, the prevalence rate is quite high. It's around 3,000 patients in about 1 million patients. But and this number is much higher than the global data. You can see in the United States, the data is around 2,000, and in Japan, it's 2,050. Anyway, it's much higher. The prevalence rate in Taiwan is much higher than the global data. So Taiwan has a higher percentage of ESRD, the end-stage renal disease. And in this kind of patient that for the renal replacement treatment in Taiwan, about 92% patient using hemodialysis as the renal replacement treatment, and only about 8% patient using the peritoneal dialysis. That means that in Taiwan, we have a very high ESRD prevalence rate, and about 92% patient using hemodialysis to as a long-term treatment. You can see the 8% number is actually quite low for the peritoneal dialysis. In Mexico, the peritoneal dialysis rate is about 60%, it's quite high. And I think in Japan, it's also very low. I think maybe 2 or 3% patients using peritoneal dialysis. Okay, so if we are going to target this issue in Taiwan, we will have some pros and we will also have some cons. For the pros, the Taiwan has a very high prevalence rate, although because of the population size, the market is still small. And the hemodialysis rate is high because I just have mentioned that only 8% patients are using peritoneal dialysis. And about the cons, I think the payment is a much more the much important cons for dealing with this problem in Taiwan, because the Taiwan is the healthcare is a single payer system. We have a national health insurance, and the national health insurance basically cover 99% overall population in the medical conditions. So they will have a very, very powerful bargaining power to for the payment of every medical management. Again, you can see that if we are dealing, if we are going to management stenotic AV fistula, the national health insurance will pay around 300 United States dollars, and to deal with this part, this more difficult condition, they also pay 300 US dollars. So there will be no price difference for dealing with this condition or this condition. So it will be difficult to make the company can have a adequate revenue to push this medical device in Taiwan. So this is our to establish the medical device in Taiwan. This is a huge problem. But if you are facing the United States market or other global market, you can see that also when we are dealing with the stenotic AV fistula, they pay around 3,000 US dollars. It seems much higher than the price in Taiwan, but if you are going to deal with the thrombotic AV fistula, it will cost around 6,000 to 10,000 US dollars. And if you are going to deal with the lowest ASS, the price will become even higher than 50,000 US dollars. So if we are going to manage more this kind of patients and deal with less this kind of patient, we can save a lot of medical expense. If 100% hemodialysis patient using AV fistula to deal with the problem, we can save about 1 billion US dollar in 1 year. So in United States market, make the shift the patient from this kind to this kind will save a lot of money. But in Taiwan, there is no price difference. So to solve this problem, to innovate this device, I think the plan is in Taiwan, because we have a very high prevalence rate and a very high hemodialysis rate. So in Taiwan, we can do device establishment, we can collect data, we can develop our software, and we can even do clinical trials in Taiwan. But after everything done, we have to go to United States to get a real income and a good revenue. So about our device, we already developed a device that we use the electrical stethoscope to hear the sound of AV fistula, and then we use AI-based analysis to analyze the sound wave. So you can see that this is an example of stenotic AV fistula. And you can see the high pitch sound will be recorded if we use the electrical stethoscope, and then we can visualize the signals. And this is a normal AV fistula. There is no high pitch sound wave recorded. So use electrical stethoscope, it will be very easy way to detect the stenotic fistula, and then we can fix the problem before it becomes thrombosed. So use our AI prediction, we can get a very high specific rate, but the sensitivity rate is not quite high. It's around 75%. But it's okay because we don't have we can, because this device can be a very easy and convenient tool, so we can use this device for several times a day. We can record it day by day. So we don't have an X-code for one shot to make the right diagnosis. We can repeat the diagnosis for many times. So the sensitivity rate, if the sensitivity is not so high, it's okay, it's acceptable. So this is our device. It's basically is a very easy electrical stethoscope, and then we can record the sound of every fistula. And through the mobile phone, we can use the mobile phone to send the data to cloud, and the cloud will go to our engineer, and the engineer will do the calculation and send back the signal to the cell phone, and let the patient know if you were AV fistula got stenosis or it's okay. And also we can do some value-added feature that we can send the data to the hospital, and the hospital can arrange the AV fistula, the invasive procedure, kind of angioplasty, something like that. Okay, so this device already got patented in Taiwan since 2 years ago, and for the United States patent is still in progress. Okay, thanks for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Chen. So the shunt travel is very big problem, not only Taiwan, Japan, but also the United States. And the end-stage renal disease patient is growing up very rapidly. So the hemodialysis patient will be more and more year after year. So your approach is very excellent. So like early detection of stenosis using the stethoscope type of and the AI type of the technology. So my question is, if that device can be used like as a stethoscope, or just only for the early detection of shunt travel?
I'm sorry, I not so get you. Can you repeat the question again?
Yes. So your device, like a stethoscope type of device, can be used as just a stethoscope, or specific for shunt detection.
Okay. Actually, I think the answer is yes, because when prototyping this device, we try to use it to hear the heart sounds. Okay, but actually the heart sound, the ideal sound wave range for the AV fistula and for heart sound, heartbeat sound is actually a little bit different. So when we using this device to manufacturing the device to sense the AV fistula sound, we actually cut off some range out of the ideal AV fistula sound wave range. So if you use this device to hear heart sound, it's not so clear, but actually you can hear heart sound fine. But this is only for us because we are physicians. But for patients, we don't want to hear the heart sound or hear any sound. So we'll just let them know that your stenosis is normal or abnormal. It's just that easy.
Okay. I understand. So, and also Taiwan is very famous for manufacturing electric devices. So the reason why that's a very important strength of Taiwan. There are TSMC or lots of electric company now in Taiwan. So that's a very good thing for you. So I think very interesting technology. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move to next country. So next country is South Korea, and the presenter is Dr. Jansan Kim. That's also my friend, and his boss is like a living legend of Taiwan Medtech. Also, he's a cardiologist, Jansu Yam, professor of emeritus of Yonsei University. So, and today, Jansan Kim, Dr. Kim is right hand of Jansu Yam. So, please.
Yeah, thanks for your kind introduction. It's my great pleasure to share my slide in this webinar. Today, I'd like to introduce Korean medical device market situation in general. So here's my disclosure. Here's my agenda: epidemiology data, market size, information and representative medical device, and information, medical insurance system, and the medical needs and characteristics of Korea. As you know, Korea is a very small country, is 96% of area of Kentucky in US. That means the 22nd smallest country in Asia, 109th in the world. So most of people live in urban area. Most every fifth residents live in Seoul. So in the population and growth from 1960 to 2021, the population increased to 25 million to the 51 million, which means 106% for 60 years. But overall increase the time, but recently the decrease the number of the population, especially biggest decrease in 2021 with a minus 0.18%. So in the same period, the total population of all countries usually increased 106%. So average age is an increase for years from 2012 to 2020, which means 38 years to 43 years. The birth rate and death rate is, as you can see here, lower part is a red line is the death rate is 5.9 per 10 people. It's quite consistent over the time, but birth rate is 5.3 per 10 people. As you can see here, dramatically decreased over time. Finally, around 2020 is just crossing. So that means around 200 inhabitants have to added by migrant from the other countries. And the market size in Korea, as you can see here, market size is increased over the time from the 2018-2021. And according to Ministry of Food and Drug Safety, is amount of import rose at around 20% in 2021. Which is usually from the US. So US medical device has been ranked first place in Korea for 2 years, for the past 4 years, and then market share steadily between around share 40 to 50%, which is quite high number. Also, the exports is increased, especially 2020 and 2021, which is due to the COVID-19 diagnostic kit. PCI number is increasing 73,000 to around 100,000 case 2021, and TAVI case is also increased over the time, right now more than 1,000 case because covered by insurance 2021 and 2022. We expect it to increase more in 2022 and 2023. And pacemaker, number of pacemaker is also increasing, around 4,000 case, right now 5,500 case. However, the share of percentage of its manufacturer stent valve pacemaker, as you can see here, domestic stent size, the market size around $105 million. Usually used the DS is around 95%. But actually, Korean DS market, as you can see here, Abbott Vascular 30%, Medtronic 14%, and Boston 20%, and Biotronic 14%. That means FDA approved device consists of around 78%. Other CE mark device is around 11%, and Korean FDA approved only 10%, including Korean company Genos and CG Bio and Ostem implant. Also, the other situation of the mitral clip system is firstly applied in MED 2003 and CE 2008, and FDA approved was at 2013. But 2020 is introduced in Korea because of lots of some problem of Korea insurance issue. But so also there is some limitation to increase the number of cases. You can see here 34 and last year 85, which is not covered in insurance. So all costs paid by the physician, patient or family. Also, the other thing is that LA left the appendage occlusion is a steadily increase. This is also covered by not covered by insurance or partially covered by insurance, only 20%, which is one of the hurdle to increase the number of these kinds of cases. The medical insurance system in Korea, health security system in Korea has two components. One is a mandatory social health insurance here and medical aid. So national health insurance system provide all citizens around 95%. So the major source of NHI fund include contribution from those who are insured and government subsidies, and medical aid program is form of the public assistance to use the medical subsidies to provide low-income group with health system. Actually, Ministry of Health and Welfare oversees national health insurance system, and another system is a health insurance review assist service, HIRA. So actually, the NHI served as an insurer, and HIRA conducted the the review and quality assessment of healthcare service. So usually control of the quality and quantity of the providing some service, health service in Korea. Also, I would like to share some innovation with YS Zhang, Yang Zhang. So here is some modified drug-coated balloon with a linear micro pattern. So we just try to approve the KFDA right now. And the other system is this is the Yang Zhang's idea. Also, this is a short track sliding balloon catheter is already used in clinical practice. Also, the other thing is, I think Hyung-il Kim is a CEO of the daughter company. He was developed as the biodegradable stent. As you can see here, here's right now ongoing clinical trial approved the KFDA 100 micro thickness. I think Dr. Kim will provide more in detail for this product. So lastly, here is the last slide, medical needs and characteristics of Korea. More than 90% of stents have been imported and need to develop the domestic stents, including BRS, and devices regarding structural intervention disease are very expensive, and there is some limitation to covered by insurance. So that means we need some endeavor to develop devices such as a TAVI, TIR, LAO device. Because as you can see here, in the US market is remarkably increased the market share of the structural heart intervention part. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kim. So I know your big boss, Professor Jansu Yang. He invented the very early stage metal stent, MAC stent.
Yeah, that's right.
And So at that time, it's almost, I think, about 30 years ago. So I still remember. So in Japan, nobody invented stent. But Dr. Jansu Zhang invented. But still now he's inventing lots of different ideas. So that's good. But I have a question. In Yonsei University or another university in Korea, do you have some kind of educational program, like entrepreneurship or education program, to invent like a new medical devices?
Unfortunately, we have not that some specific some program until now. So previously, I think Yang Zhang tried to develop that kind of program. He was the dean of the medical school, but until now, I think we have no that kinds of some system. But we try to expose lots of some experience and other advanced technology to the medical students recently. So many medical students try to follow the other some track, such as some invention of the medical device or other some medical system, or sometimes as you know, there's some AI. So I think this is another some chance, yeah, to develop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, program, yeah, in the future.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think in terms of the education, we can collaborate together in another countries. So yeah, that's maybe good things.
Yeah,
for,
thank you.
Of the important purpose of this conference. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, so next speaker is also from South Korea, Dr. Hyung-gil Kim. And he's some kind of representative of the company name Dotter Incorporation. Dotter maybe comes from Dr. Charles Dotter, who did angioplasty with catheter, probably Dotter effect. That's one of the very famous effect for interventional cardiologists. So please.
Thank you for your invitation and giving me the opportunity to talk about our technology. My name is Hyung-gil Kim, CEO of Dotter Company located in South Korea. When developing Phosphine, biodegradation period was taken into consideration. We designed a molecular weight that can maintain mechanical strength for at least 6 months. At the same time, it takes 3 years to completely biodegrade, as the molecular weight of the resin is smaller than able to observe. Phosphine mainly consists of poly-L-lactic acid, PLLA, and we have additionally added polymer having phosphoric calling group, which is a major component of red blood cell membrane. Our research and development of biodegradable stents began in 2007 when I was doing my PhD degree. At the same time, I researched animal experiments, and in 2012, company has been conducting developments. As we continue to develop, we initially developed same thickness as Abbott, which is 157 micron, and reduced the thickness to 120 micron. We reduced the thickness to 100 micron and started clinical trial in Korea last year. If we successfully enroll all patients this year, we expect that our Phosphine will be released in 2025. Professor Katsuhiko Ishihara was my advisor during my PhD course. The main research of Professor Ishihara is MPC polymer, which has phosphoric calling groups. In my PhD course, I prepared blends of PLLA and water-soluble MPC polymer with dichloromethane and methanol mixed solvents. PLLA and PMB30W 95-5 blended films showed higher tensile strength than PLLA films. PLLA PMB30W blends showed degradation behavior similar to PLLA. During 6 months implantation, we found that phosphoric calling group remained on the surface. PLLA blended with the water-soluble MPC polymer reduced the thrombosis compared with PLLA. Here's our biodegradable stents coated with water-soluble MPC polymer. Our length is currently 8 to 23 millimeter, and we will increase the length to 28 millimeter. The diameter is 24 to 3.5 millimeter. After laser cutting from PLLA tube, PDLLA and MPC polymer sirolimus drugs are coated, and the marker is designed to be labeled with platinum at both ends. Blood clots around the strut can be suppressed by reducing thickness of the strut. Therefore, it is expected to able to reduce stent thrombosis. It was confirmed through animal experiments that inflammatory response was suppressed. For us to design thinly, botulinum was designed to be denser than absorbed, so mechanical strength can be divided into segments. Although stress thickness is 100 micron, it's still thinner than able to absorb. Mechanical strength remains same, and it has been shown to have a much higher radial force than another biodegradable stance. Studies show that radial force of botulinum is equivalent to that of giants. Biodegradation rate was confirmed in real time. Degradation of botulinum took for 3 years. When in vitro, in vivo, and correlation was performed, it was confirmed that they were equally degraded and all were degraded within 3 years. We compared animal experimental data with giants for 6 months. There were only 3 cases of giants, so it was not statistically significant. This is a typical data. After 6 months, we had a large follow of the lumen, but it was not statistically significant. 2 years later, when the comparison was made with 7 cases, lumen was more expanded in case of botulinum, resulting in rate loss negative value, and giants came out by 0.1 millimeter rate loss. In case of animals, blood vessels become larger after 2 years, so I think that it will be a little different from person's blood vessels. However, we obtain data that biodegradable stent is clearly superior to drug-eluting stent in case of enlarged blood vessels. 2 years later, our biodegradable stents, as shown in OCT, has a degraded strut, but has a remaining shape. Historical findings show that pyrenic component was degraded, but formation remained intact. Follow-up to 3 years, it was completely degraded, and there were no biodegradable stents left in blood vessels. In case of giants, it was observed in a wrinkled shape due to enlarged blood vessels of animals. Histological finding also confirmed botulinum was completely degraded. A total of 128 patients is being registered for the clinical trial in Korea for coronary application with lesion diameter of 2.5 millimeter and or more and 3.75 millimeter or less, and 19 millimeter or less in length must be performed. The primary investigator of this clinical trial is Professor Yang Zhang. We will be also conducting pivotal study to evaluate safety and efficacy of botulinum in patients with BTK lesion. A total of 250 participants, 80 domestic and 170 overseas, will be registered. Test group will be treated with botulinum and control group with PTA device. Primary effect endpoint is a composite of major amputation, CDTLR, and binary restenosis of tiger lesion 6 months after the procedure. Safety endpoints are free from major adverse limb events and perioperative deaths at 30 days, 136 months, and 1 to 3 years after treatment. Total holds about 100 patients relate to biodegradable stents and OCT. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. It's interesting. So you ran at the University of Tokyo under Professor Ishihara, and yes, you came back to the United States, and now you are developing the bioabsorbable stent under the company name Dota Incorporation. That's a very interesting collaboration between Japan and South Korea. So I have one question. Are you planning to put some drug, like a immunosuppressive drug, like a limus, or just only hospitazidylcholine? That's it. So what's your current plan?
So the question was the next developing biodegradable stents.
Yeah. So you are planning, so current version of your product, prototype is that with like sirolimus, everolimus, or another limus drug, or just like a bare metal, not metal, just without drug?
So currently, in Korea, we are doing clinical trials with coated with everolimus.
Oh, everolimus.
Yeah, but without MPC polymer. And
sure.
For the international product, we coated with MPC polymer and sirolimus.
Okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. Because without drug, sometimes it's very difficult to control. And another question. So I'm very interested in below the knee approach. So of course, below the knee, we can use almost same size as coronary stents. So the reason why, so that's a very strategically very important for the development of this kind of technology. So do you think so below the knee, some people say like a self-expandable nitinol stent may be better, and some people say, oh no, it's a bioabsorbable stent, it's better. So what's your opinion for the treatment of the below the knee?
So most of the biodegradable stents nowadays under clinical trials for the below the knee. The reason why is first of all, in business perspective, the enrolled patients will be smaller than the coronary application. I think that's the main reason. And we also they had some good clinical result with a below the knee application.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's good drug, and that's a very important device for all over the world.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move to the last presentation from the Asian country. So from Indonesia, Dr. Suko Adiarto from Department of Cardiology and Vascular Medicine, University of Indonesia. So please.
Thank you, Ikono Sensei. Good afternoon. Let me share my slide. Thank you, Ikono Sensei, Japanese Circulation Society, and Asia Pacific Society of Cardiology for the invitations. So maybe a little bit different from other speakers. I would like to talk specific products which we invented here in Indonesia. So we developed a 2-wire fenestrated TFAR for proximal descending aortic pathology. So this is my country, Indonesia, located in Southeast Asia. And this is the map of Indonesia with over 10,000 islands. And this is the capital of Indonesia, Jakarta, where I live and work. This is our hospital, the National Cardiovascular Center in Jakarta. And we, as cardiologists, we've frequently seen patients with aortic pathology as well. And the descending aorta would be our target because it has at least two different pathologies like aortic dissections and aortic aneurysm as shown in the slides. So as mentioned by previous speakers, all countries have aging populations, not as obvious as Japan and Singapore, but Indonesia also has projections of life expectancy in which the population is growing older. And with the prevalence of hypertension, which is quite high in Indonesia, and those who are uncontrolled are the majority of patients with hypertension. So we can expect that complication will be prevalent, including patients with aortic aneurysm and dissections. This is the risk factors of patients having aortic dissections and aneurysm, and we know that hypertension is among the major risk factors that is contributing significantly to the development of aortic aneurysm and dissections. We have Marfan syndrome, but the number is small. And of course, hypertension is one of the major factors that influence the occurrence and prevalence of aortic dissections. Indeed, in our survey, we see that patients with aortic dissections, most of them, almost 90% have hypertension. This is the treatment of descending aortic aneurysm, first published by Michael Dake back in 1994, as well as aortic dissections by Ninaber, which is treated endovascularly using thoracic endovascular aortic repair back then in 1999. And after that, we see many publications showing that TEVAR, thoracic endovascular aortic repair, using stent to treat descending aortic pathology, outperform the surgery in terms of outcome, especially mortality. Almost all of trials shows that TEVAR endovascular treatment of descending aortic pathology is superior as compared to open surgery. Of course, the number also corroborates with the access in which a surgical approach required a very massive approach as compared to percutaneous approach, which is very minimally invasive. This is the number of endovascular procedure, including endovascular aortic repair for abdominal aorta aneurysm and thoracic endovascular aortic repair in Indonesia, which is increasing by years, slightly decreasing during the pandemic, but now it's increasing again to the number of almost 200 procedures a year. Thoracic endovascular aortic repair is a treatment of choice in descending aorta, but we know for that to happen, we require a healthy landing zone, which is about 1.5 to 2 centimeters of healthy landing zone. However, not all patients have the ideal landing zone, such as this patient. This patient has a large aneurysm with no landing zone. This is a patient with aortic dissections with a very short landing zones. So TEVAR cannot be performed in these patients. Of course, there are several ways of dealing with these situations, including parallel stent, endo anchors, in situ fenestrations, on table fenestrations, and customized branch device. However, this technique may have their own benefit and concern, including the difficulty in performing the interventions, as well as the possibility of having gutter leak or other complications during procedures. So one of our idea is to make fenestrations with 2-wire fenestration system with the modifications that includes first the fenestrations that is pre-made, that is also require a hole here for the fenestrations. So we also include the olive tip, which 2 holes. This is the main hole, and this is the side hole, from which another wire is inserted that will go inside the stent graft through the fenestration hole. The 2 wire will then come out of the hub, the central hub and the side hub, showing this is the wire that will deliver the stent graft to the ascending aorta, while the another wire is to go from the fenestration to the subclavian artery. This is a step-by-step procedure of doing the fenestrative using the 2-wire system. First, we cannulate the left subclavian artery, and then we advance the stiff wire into the ascending aorta, and then we inserted the wire to the central hub and the side hub, and will eventually go up. And we push the stent graft to the position where the side branch wire is going to the left subclavian artery, and the main branch wire going into the ascending aorta. And then we push the deploy the stent graft by pushing the delivery sheet, so it's open like this, and the fenestrations, and the wire is in position to the side branch. This is angiographic pictures of a step-by-step approach. We can see here the two wire into the ascending and the left subclavian artery. Another one is from the left brachial artery to be able to perform the aortogram. We can see here that the landing zone is very short, and we proceed with the stent graft. This is the marker of the fenestrations, and through which the wire is going into the left subclavian artery. So once we deploy, we already have the wire that is going through the fenestrations and the left subclavian artery. After which we put another stent that could be either from a femoral artery or the brachial artery. So this is the final result after we completed the procedures. The aneurysm is completely excluded, but we have the wire, and the left subclavian artery remain patent. Sorry. So this is the procedure. You can see the traffic of the wire, the aneurysm. Once we proceed with the stent graft opening, this is the wire that's already located in the left subclavian artery when we deploy that, and this is the final result with exclusions of the aneurysm and the patent left subclavian artery. This is the 6 months follow-up of the first patients. We see that the aneurysm is already excluded and thrombosed, and we have the patent left subclavian artery. We tested also this product for patients with the emergency situations. This is the patients with aortic dissections with a very short landing zone and malperfusion syndrome because the true lumen is collapsed because of the static occlusions from the flap, and the patient is having acute limb ischemia. So we have to cross the occlusions from above, totally occluded descending aorta. So we have to make our way by snaring the wire from above and reverse the approach from below. So we have the wire into the ascending aorta and the wire into the left subclavian artery. So by following the same procedure, we end up to complete the TFAR with complete exclusions of the false lumen and the patent left subclavian artery. And this is the 3 months follow-up. We can see that the stent is patent, the aortic stent graft as well as the left subclavian stent graft with partial thrombosis of the false lumen without any indications of endoleaks. We also tried this approach for 2 fenestrations and likely to be successful in preliminary data. So we got a patent from, interestingly, from Japan and Korea. So in conclusion, the 2-wire fenestrated TFAR can be used as an alternative to treat proximal descending aortic pathology. Initial results shows that the system can be used for 2 fenestrations, and that can also be used in emergency cases. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. It's a It's a very interesting. So especially for fatal emergent disease, so we have to save the patient life. So that's a very critical and very important idea to save such kind of patient. I have two questions. One question. So are you using a current existing stent graft and modify it, or you totally invented new devices?
No, it's actually modifications. So it's a ordinary stent graft that have modifications. So the modifications includes two things. First, the fenestrations that is pre-made. That is 1 centimeter in diameter and 1 centimeter from the border of the graft. So we have another modification which includes the insertions from the olive tip. So the side branch of the olive tip will be the way from the wire to the left subclavian artery into the inside part of the stent graft. So when we deploy, we already have the wire from inside the stent graft into the fenestrations and into the left subclavian artery. So that is the modifications.
Okay, I understand. The second question is about geographical unique aspect of Indonesia. So Indonesia is the number 4 population in the world. Yes. Number 1 is India, China, United States, and Indonesia. But also the number 1, there are many islands. So you have tons of islands. I think number 1 in the world. That's the number of the islands. So most of the people, as I understand, living near, Jakarta. But what's the situation of the remote medicine or like a rural area medicine type of things? So because each small island, of course, there are people living. So how to manage the like a rural area or island type of medical practice?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question to answer, Ikeno Sensei, because not only we have over 10,000 islands, we also have 275 something million populations. So distribution is also very difficult, not only in medical supplies, transfers, but also medical personnel. Because, of course, we have the program to put the young doctors into the rural area. But, of course, they also wanted to study for further fellowship. So they will come back to the cities for further study. And once they have the capability of advanced technology and surgery, it will be even more difficult to resend them back to the rural area where facility is very limited. So currently, the Ministry of Health is trying very hard to distribute not only the medical supplies but also doctors. So currently, we know the Ministry of Health really understand that cardiovascular diseases is the #1 cause of death. So they are seriously taking on the prevention as well as devices to fight acute diseases that cause death. So they're developing many cath labs. They're providing so many scholarship for fellowships in interventional cardiology that makes it in the near future, we hope that the discrepancy between rural area and cities are not as big as today.
Oh, okay, I understand. Because I'm living in the United States. So during the COVID-19, we have a serious lockdown. So patients usually stay at home and they didn't want to go to the hospital. So the reason why in the United States, CMS, Center for Medicare and the Medicaid system, announced they encourage the big hospital to do like a more remote medicine type of things, and we call virtual hospital, not only chronic disease, but also some kind of after operation patient go back to home, and hospital monitor those patients. So we call prediction, the prevention, the precision medicine using digital technology. So that's kind of starting up company in the United States now spread out all over the United States, and they can show some cost reduction of medical care. And also using like a 5G or digital technology, people are thinking about a robotic procedure. So remote medicine plus robotic surgery or robotic catheterization. But they need some place to do proof of concept. So I think Indonesia is, they're already very big unmet needs. I just understand. So maybe that's kind of collaboration may be possible for the future. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we're gonna finish, and we have only 10 minutes for the panel discussion. So all of the panel, let's put on the video mode. Like I would like to see the face. So only 10 minutes, just a short question. So first, this conference is Asian Pacific Cardiology Conference. Cardiology Society Conference. So I would like to ask each country, what's the main cause of death in each country? So how about in India? Sandeep is already gone, maybe? Maybe gone. Okay, I think India probably heart disease is cardiovascular is the #1 cause of death. How about Japan?
Maybe in Japan, the cancer, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, the cancer is the main cause of death, but the cardiovascular disease is increasing. And so we combine stroke and cardiovascular disease. The stroke and cardiovascular disease is the main cause of death. Okay.
So Sandeep, thank you, come back. So what's the main cause of death, #1 cause of death in India?
Yeah, I mean, the way cardiovascular diseases and the diabetics are increasing in our country, the cardiovascular mortality is becoming the #1 cause, especially from if you take all the cardiovascular problems. And we are also increasing very fast as far as the number of diabetics are also concerned. So all the complications, morbidity and mortality related to long-term diabetes also is increasing at a faster pace.
Okay. How about Singapore?
Very similar to Japan. I think if you take disease by itself, then cancer is still #1. But if you take cardiovascular with stroke, then that becomes #1. So approximately 1/3 of our death is considered cardiovascular and stroke related.
How about Taiwan?
Yes, thanks. Because I talk about this issue later. So I just Google it, and the first place is cancer in Taiwan, and the second place is cardiovascular disease, and the third place is pneumonia. Okay.
Okay. How about South Korea?
I think it's a similar situation to Japan and Taiwan. First place is cancer, but cancer is distributed all organs, several organs, but only one organ is only is a cardiovascular disease. The second place, and third place is pneumonia, and fourth place cerebral vascular event.
How about Indonesia?
So similar to other countries, we still have a cardiovascular disease as a #1 killer, followed by cancer, and the third place is renal failure.
Okay, I think in US, cardiovascular is #1, but I think cancer is of course increasing. So I think in the advanced country, so the patient can be easily access to the cath lab after MRI. So that's a little bit different. So used to be many people die by acute myocardial infarction in advanced countries, but now we can fix it. So the reason why access to the hospital in the advanced country is probably much faster and easier. So, but overall, so cardiovascular disease is still increasing. especially diabetes is increasing too. So, so the reason why we have to collaborate to think about a more smart way to fix those kind of diseases, especially heart failure. We call heart failure pandemic. So that's all over the world. So the heart failure patient is increasing dramatically and sometimes caused lots of cost, expenditure about that. That's the reason why we had this kind of a panel discussion, the conference as a APSC. So that's the main purpose of today's. We should collaborate. And the second question to everybody. So I noticed each country has a very unique aspect. So for example, India, the most number of the population and the frugal innovation. Japan is aging society. Taiwan is very good for manufacturing electronic devices. And South Korea, you have a big company like Samsung and the LG. Those people are now coming to medical device market. And Indonesia, and the number 4 population in the world, and there are many small islands. So I think each country has each unique aspect. But I'm at Stanford, so biodesign process. So how to find the unmet needs of each unique aspect country. So most important things is usually outsider. For example, foreigner. For example, Indonesia doctor or somebody, young entrepreneur, visit Japan, and they visit like an aging facility or some small town or something. They will notice how different between Indonesia and Japan is. Especially they may feel, oh my gosh, there are lots of amazing people in Japan compared with Indonesia. Those type of collaboration is very important. So I'd like to ask Sandeep. So so you are the most leader, the advanced leader of Medtech in Asia. How to do some kind of international collaboration of medical device innovation, especially think about find the unmet needs?
Yeah, each country has its own dynamics. And first of all, from resources point of view, also, if you see that each country has a very different assets. Like I can say about my country, we are full of technical manpower. Human resources, biggest strength of our medtech innovation system. But we may require collaboration for, say, some precision engineering, or if we have to do some sort of a large animal trial. So in that way, a collaboration becomes very important. But somehow I feel that in the coming years, as far as the need identification is concerned, it should focus on 3 domains. 1, cardiovascular, 2nd, diabetes, and 3rd, catering to the aging population. Even in India, though we are not a predominantly aging population, but we will catch very soon because the life expectancy is increasing and we are getting more and more aging population. So I think these 3 areas, and maybe if you can put it as a cancer also along with that, we must work together to identify unmet needs in all these 4 areas and work together to find the solutions which will be important, which will serve the purpose for all the geographies, not only in the Asian, but also across the world. So my key message will be that these are the 4 areas one should target for clinical need identification.
Sure. So after COVID, maybe we can easier to travel each country. Maybe we can have some kind of grant to support the young entrepreneur to travel to each country and to do the clinical imaging together to find the very important unmet needs through different eyes. That's my first proposal. And the second, so for medical device development, of course, we need a budget, money, right? So also we need some kind of company support sometimes and manufacturing support too. So I think, for example, Taiwan, you have a good manufacturing capacity, and Japan, we have same as South Korea. So we have a big companies, medical device company. So those type of very important. I would like to ask Kiriyama, Dr. Kiriyama Sensei. So how to involve more industry? So we are all medical doctors here. So we don't have money maybe, and we don't have a maybe skill of sense of the business. But how to involve the more industry people, especially South Korea or Japan? So there are lots of big companies already existing. So how to involve those people to our activity?
Yes. So thank you for your question. So I think the biodesign, the announcement of biodesign process is very important to the involvement of the industry. So the diversity is very important, and so we do some clinical immersion with the industry members, and so we share the how to proceed the biodesign process. So when they know the importance of biodesign process, so they will get pay some grant for the medical doctors. So actually in Japan Biodesign, so some members from industry know the importance of biodesign process, so they favor to join this program. So share this great program is the one way to proceed.
Okay, so that's good. So I think, for example, in Japan, there are also South Korea, there are big companies, and they are struggling to produce new devices, especially cardiovascular. So maybe to ask each company and young engineer, young employees of each company can travel to like India, Singapore, Indonesia, Taiwan or somewhere, and do the clinical immersion and maybe collaboration together. And maybe that can be developed in the future for the global collaboration, including industry. So I think those type of activity. We are academic society, but we academic society is usually like a Switzerland. Even the competitor each other for the industry, like a Thermo, Olympus, Nipro, they are compete each other, but they can come to the academic field. They will be the friend. So that's the reason why we are very important, because we are academia and we are for the patient. So the reason why we can do those kind of things as APSC. I think that's maybe today's conclusion. And I know how to is very important, but knowing who is more important. So we are friend each other, same mission for the patient, and we are cardiologists. I think we can collaborate more together and to fix the cardiovascular disease through the Medtech innovation. So thank you very much. Okay, let's have a 5 minutes biologic break. And after that, we're going to have a second keynote lecture from the Dr. Ho. Dr. Ho is also interventional cardiologist, but she works for the Japanese government as a regulator. So like a Japanese FDA. So she's going to give a keynote lecture 5 minutes later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. So today's last keynote lecture from Japan, and Dr. Mami Ho, she's an interventional cardiologist, and now she's a reviewer and the director of Japanese FDA, we call PMDA, Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Agency. I think regulation is very important. Without regulatory path, we cannot use the device for the patient. So I think today she's gonna give a keynote lecture, especially focusing to the medical device regulation and also innovation. Dr. Ho, please.
Thank you, Ikeno-sensei. You are kindly introducing me. So let me share my slide. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's more, yeah, yes, that's not perfect. Yes.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for giving me the precious opportunity to have this presentation. My name is Mami Ho. I have been engaged in clinical evaluation of medical devices as an interventional cardiologist for 18 years. I was also the member of IMDRF, International Medical Device Regulator Forum, MDC Working Group. MDC means Medical Device Clinical Evaluation. I have no financial conflicts of interest disclosed concerning. Today, I would like to give you all an overview of the medical device review process in Japan. The slide shows what I will talk about today. So, regulatory authorities in Japan. I'll begin by explaining the Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Agency, PMDA's activities. Medical devices are regulated by the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, MHLW in Japan. As shown in the figure, MHLW is the national public body that is responsible for approval of pharmaceuticals and medical devices, provision of necessary laws and regulations, and issuance of guidelines. The PMDA is an independent administrative agency and is commissioned by the MHLW to conduct scientific review of pharmaceuticals and medical devices, provide support for product development, and carry out investigation on reliability or quality, and report the results to the ministry. Next, definition of medical devices. The definition of medical devices in the PMD Act in Japan is shown here. It stipulates that the term medical device refers to appliances or instruments and etc., which are intended for use in the diagnosis, treatment, or prevention of disease in human or animals, or intended to affect the structure or functioning of the bodies of human or animals, excluding regenerative medicine products, and which are specified by cabinet order. As you know, unlike pharmaceuticals, a wide variety of medical devices exist. Some products that are considered medical devices in Japan are classified into the category of pharmaceuticals or in vitro diagnostics, or don't fall under any of these categories in foreign countries. So, applicability of medical devices. The applicability of medical devices as defined in the PMD Act depends on the intended use. Let me explain with an example. As shown in the slide, the same scissors used to cut paper at home are not medical devices. On the other hand, scissors used in surgery to make skin incisions are medical devices because they meet the definition of being used to diagnose or treat a person. In this case, it must be evaluated and regulated as a medical device. Next, I will also explain the case of software as a medical device with an example. A software that performs stress analysis is not a medical device because it doesn't by itself diagnose or treat disease. Therefore, it cannot be claimed as being able to diagnose fracture risk. On the other hand, if the software is intended to diagnose osteoporosis by using stress analysis, it is considered a medical device. The diagnosis of osteoporosis is made using bone density. Therefore, if the performance of bone density measurement can be evaluated with clinically meaningful accuracy, it can be marketed as a medical device for the diagnosis of osteoporosis. Classification of medical devices. In Japan, medical devices are classified into 4 classes based on its risk level, from low risk class 1 to high risk class 4. This 4-category classification scheme is almost the same as GHTF harmonized medical device classifications, and the requirement of regulations vary depends on the class level. Class 1 medical device, for example, X-ray films, dental metals, surgical instruments are very low-risk devices and are not subject to any pre-market certification or approval. They can be put on the market only with notification to PMDA. Most of the Class 2 devices and some of the Class 3 devices are under the third-party review scheme. Manufacturers of Class 2 devices must submit an application for certification to a third-party review body. Class 2 and 4 devices are high-risk devices, and most of the Class 2 devices and all Class 4 devices are subject to pre-market approval from MHLW. So, application categories. In Japan, medical devices are divided into 3 categories. Generic medical devices that are equivalent to existing medical devices in terms of intended use and structure. Brand new medical devices that are different from existing medical devices in terms of intended use and structure. And improved medical devices that are in between these medical devices. This figure illustrates the 3 categories. A medical device with only minor differences, such as A, is considered equivalent to an existing medical device and classified into the category of generic medical devices. And a medical device with major differences, such as D, is considered a brand new medical devices. A medical devices with certain differences, such as B or C, needs to be evaluated for their impacts on clinical efficacy and safety, and it is considered an improved medical device. The difference between B and C lies in whether clinical studies need to be conducted to evaluate variations between new and existing medical devices. So, clinical evaluation. In the following section, I will explain the clinical evaluation of medical devices in the Japanese review process. Basically, it is based on the same concept as the 3 clinical evaluation documents issued by International Medical Device Regulators Forum, IMDRF. So please refer to those as well. This session focuses on the 4 points of view about clinical evaluation. What is clinical evaluation? In IMDRS MDC Working Group N56 Final 2019, it is defined as a set of ongoing activities that use scientifically sound method for the assessment of analysis of clinical data to verify the safety, clinical performance, and/or clinical effectiveness of medical devices when used as intended by the manufacturer. So, what is difference among clinical performance, clinical efficacy, and clinical effectiveness when used for medical devices? IMDRF N56 defines clinical performance as the ability of medical device to achieve its intended clinical purpose as claimed by the manufacturer. It defines clinical effectiveness as the ability of a medical device to achieve clinically meaningful outcomes in its intended use as claimed by the manufacturer. There is no definition of clinical efficacy, both IMDRF and ISO documents. While clinical effectiveness indicates clinically meaningful improvement in real life, clinical efficacy means that efficacy is demonstrated in clinical studies, and such efficacy is considered equivalent to clinically meaningful improvement. I will show you an example. The clinical performance of a Class II capsule endoscope depends on whether gastrointestinal lesions can be observed using the endoscope. In comparison, the capsule endoscope can be said to provide clinical effectiveness when gastrointestinal lesions are observed using the endoscope and a diagnosis is made leading to an improved clinical prognosis. Evidence accumulated over a long period of time indicates that a gastrointestinal lesion closely observed by gastrointestinal endoscopy can be diagnosed and treated, leading to an improved prognosis. Consequently, clinical performance of the capsule endoscope needs to be evaluated. To determine if images taken with the endoscope are clear enough to diagnose a gastrointestinal lesion, we cannot know this unless we actually take images of the human gastrointestinal tract. Because of differences between humans and animals, such as the length of the intestine, bipedalism, and the presence of pathologic models. Hence, clinical studies are necessary. The reason why clinical evaluation is important are: we can understand that the medical device in question can achieve the intended clinical performance and/or effectiveness from clinical evaluation. We can monitor the safety, clinical performance, and effectiveness with regard to post-market activities along with clinical evaluation. Thus, clinical evaluation is regarded to allow us to generate good communication between manufacturers and medical device regulators for safe and effective utilization of medical devices. Clinical evaluation is an ongoing process conducted throughout the life cycle of medical devices. Manufacturers need to identify a new safety, clinical performance, and effectiveness information of medical devices. And they also needed to repeatedly and periodically obtain such information while using medical devices. The information obtained throughout the life cycle of medical devices is fed into the ongoing risk management process according to ISO 14971 and may result in change to the risk assessment, clinical investigation document, instruction for use, and post-market activities. IMDRF published the process of a clinical evaluation. To conduct a clinical evaluation, manufacturers need identification of the essential principles that require support from relevant clinical data, identification of available clinical data relevant to the medical device and its intended use, evaluation of clinical data, generation of clinical data needed to address remaining questions of safety, clinical performance, and/or effectiveness, and gathering of all clinical data together to reach a conclusion about the safety, clinical performance, and/or effectiveness. As you already know, we PMDA review the purpose of development of the medical device based on the benefit-risk balance. It is necessary to make it clear what is the purpose of the development. Would it increase the benefit or decrease the risk? If it was clear, we could understand its clinical positioning. Once its clinical positioning is made clear, we can clarify patients' population, suitable control, efficacy and safety evaluations. Of course, preclinical tests and bench tests are required, and all data, both non-clinical and clinical data, should be used to evaluate the medical device's clinical efficacy and safety. So, evaluation of medical devices through pre-market and post-market based on their characteristics. All products shown on the slide are medical devices. Thus, medical devices are characterized by a wide variety of low risk to high risk, simple to complex structures, as well as software. Furthermore, for medical devices that are highly novel, learning curve in their procedure has a significant impact on clinical efficacy and safety. Another feature is that the actual use of these products in the medical practice leads to repeated improvements and modifications, which in turn shortens their lifetimes. So therefore, there is no established method of evaluation, and the risk-benefit balance must be evaluated for each intended use. Some of them can be evaluated within the scope of existing technologies, while others are highly novel and need to be judged based on the appropriateness of the evaluation method. In order to deliver as a good medical device as possible to the patient, it is important to proceed with efficient development, taking into account the development stage, identifying points that can be evaluated based on the technology to date, and conducting clinical evaluation through pre- and post-marketing phases. In Japan, based on the characteristics of various medical devices, various the regulations have been implemented in order to deliver necessary medical devices to patients without delay. Please refer to the PMDA website for details. Finally, I would like to explain a little about the differences in medical devices regulation in each country. In Europe, the CE mark, which allows products to be distributed in Europe, can be obtained by marketing a self-declaration of conformity with the essential safety requirements of the EU directives, which differs significantly from the United States and Japan. However, reimbursement is determined by each country. In addition, starting in maybe 2027, clinical evaluation data and post-marketing surveillance will be more rigorous. Japan and the United States have also reviewed and approved the clinical efficacy and safety of medical devices. In the United States, pre-marketing approval applications require clinical validation of clinical efficacy and safety, and are characterized by the broad applicability of the 510(k) category for equivalence review. In Japan, clinical evaluations are flexible, as existing clinical data may be utilized in some cases. In both Japan and the United States, insurance reimbursement is provided upon approval. But since Japan has universal health insurance, all citizens can be approved medical devices, whereas in the United States, reimbursement is limited by the government to the elderly and low income. PMDA offers a variety of consultation systems in this way. We encourage you to take advantage of the free consultation service available before you seek advice. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hall. It's a very important presentation to know the Japanese regulation, because Japanese regulation of medical devices is one of the most strict regulation system, very similar to the United States. So the reason why for another Asian country, so if people want to come to Japanese market, that's the third biggest medical device market, you have to learn the Japanese regulation system. And Dr. Ho is in charge of that review process in Japanese government. So I have two questions. So first question, if my memory is correct, I think the Japanese government have a very high level of treaty or consensus between, I think, Brazil and Mexico about some kind of medical device regulation. For example, if the medical device is approved in Japan, so that device can be sold both in Brazil and Mexico. Is that right?
Yes, is that right? And many countries example, Korea or Singapore refers the Japanese approval. I heard that these countries, many easy track if the device approved in Japan. I heard that.
Okay. The second question. So I'm also committee member of US-Japan medical device regulatory convergency project, like we call harmonization by doing. some people say HBD. So that's between US and Japan. So especially for the cardiovascular innovative devices, we have more than almost 20 years experience of that national project.
Yes.
So as PMDA, Japanese government regulatory agency, do you have some action to talk or collaborate with another Asian country like China, Korea, or Taiwan, or India? Do you have some kind of plan or to collaborate with those each country's regulatory agency for the medical device approval?
Thank you, Ikeno-sensei. Actually, I'm sorry, the actual plan is not ongoing, but PMDA considered that the Asian partner is very important. So PMDA has a training center, Asian training center every year, and discussion with Asian regulators people with about clinical evaluation of medical devices and very case training and so on. So PMDA think that Asian people Asian region is very important. So maybe in the future we collaborate with Asian regulators.
Oh, thank you very much. Because we Asian, as I told you, so we have more than 50% population in the world is Asian. So it's very important, not only doctors collaboration like today, but also each regulators, like each government collaboration is also very important for the medical device innovation.
And I think that in the medical devices clinical investigation, maybe in the renal denervation, the Japan and South Korea international clinical trials was conducted.
Sure, yeah, that's true. So one of the example, renal denervation, we did some kind of Asian simultaneous clinical trial and the data put together and to discuss. Okay, that's one of the examples. Thank you. And of course, not only approval, but also post-approval. So we call real-world data and the real-world evidence. So most of the evidence, medical evidence, comes from United States. Like because US is evidence-based medicine, and many devices comes from US because made in United States. But unfortunately, in US, Asian population is only 6%. 94% is non-Asian. So the most of the evidence from the United States is not sometimes not fit to the Asian patient. So the reason why we need some kind of evidence, especially real world evidence from Asia for the Asian people. So as a regulatory, so in Japan, so now PMDA is now seriously thinking about to collect real world data to create a real world evidence. So, but why don't you collaborate with like India, Taiwan, South Korea, Indonesia, Singapore to collect the real world data together to create the real world evidence for Asian patients? What do you think?
Thank you, Ikeno-sensei. In the medical device field, it is most vital things is not classification words, because some there is not meaningful adverse events such as major adverse cardio events is very variety. So that the important thing is to classify the term adverse events term or some kind of evaluation method. To standardization is important. So maybe you know the TABI registry or Intermax or some kind of Elvado. In Japanese registry combined standardization to the United States registry, so they can compare the Asian people and Caucasians. So maybe the Asian people knows the standardization and make the adverse events term, and so they we correct the widely Asian people's real world data, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. So I hope we can do more future collaboration together in Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and almost 3 hours, so it's time to close the session. And so first of all, I would like to say thank you to Professor Komuro, so to give us some very priceless opportunity to have this 3 hours session. And also Dr. Kiriyama, who is in charge of all of the plan and everything. So, and of course, Japanese Society of Cardiology Secretary, and of course, Asian Pacific Society of Cardiology Secretariat. So those efforts, and also all of the panelists. So this is just the start point of our collaboration of Medtech, especially focusing to cardiology in Asia. So, but we have to keep continuing this kind of collaboration for Asian patients, especially. So that's a very important first step for us. And I hope we can continue this kind of activity, ideally face-to-face in the future. So that's, that's my hope. And as I told you, know-how is also important, but knowing who is sometimes more important. So that's the human network under the same mission. So that's for the patients. So thank you very much. And I think before say goodbye, we have to video on and maybe just say goodbye, and maybe somebody may take a picture, I don't know. So let's put on the video, all of the panelists. And thank you very much. And maybe see you soon in near future by face-to-face. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Kumi.
Thank you.
Yeah.